Hello YouTube, TWK here, and welcome to my extreme conscious video on what I believe to be one of the best anime video games of all time. Now this game is brought to us by the same people who made such titles as Yakuza 0, Boom, Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 3 and 4, Yakuza 5, and Yakuza 6. The Song of Life! And yes, I do own Yakuza Kiwami too, but it just doesn't have this proper box art. It's Fist the North Star, Lost Paradise, made by RGG Studio, published by Sega. Let me tell you, this game is quite the unexpected one, and quite the unexpected surprise. Like, I still can't believe more people aren't talking about it, which is why I keep making videos about this. It's also why I'm going to continue making videos about Mystical Ninja, as well as Going On to Great Adventure. I'll continue making videos about games that I thoroughly enjoy until either enough people watch them, or in the case of the N64 games, they get re-released on other platforms, because I'm tired of being like one of just a few people who played them. Oh my goodness gracious. Anyways, let's just talk about this game, shall we? First off, do you need to read or watch any previous Fist of the North Star material to understand what happens in this game? No, not at all. As someone who still has yet to do either, I can say that Lost Paradise tells its own complete narrative. And said story revolves around our protagonist, Kenshiro, searching for his fiancée Yuria, and said search eventually brings him to our main area of the game, the City of Eden. It's here where we meet our main cast, Jagre, the captain of the watch, who starts off antagonistic towards our wholesome hero, but before long, basically becomes Ken's best friend, despite the master of Hokuto Shinken not exactly being 100% on board with the idea. Next is Lady Kisana, the ruler of the city. She inherited it after committing patricide due to her dear old daddy unaliving her mother. Following that, we have Lyra, operator of the Coliseum and nightclub, as well as the gatherer of information around town. And lastly, we have our main antagonists, Kyo-Oh, the leader of the Army of Ruin, and his second-in-command, Taruga. They have lofty goals that I won't go into for spoiler reasons, but hoo boy, prepare for some usual RGG level twists. But of course, an RGG game wouldn't be complete without a healthy cast of supporting characters, and you may notice they all support very 80s aesthetic, and I am here for it. And on top of that, the devs kept the insane character proportions that can only exist in the world of Fist of the North Star. They could have made the characters fit the normal Yakuza art style, but these damn dainty developers decided to drastically dream big. Or something, I just felt like doing an alliteration there, sorry. And apologies for all the dialogue in the game. Many refer to Lost Paradise as a beat-em-up style game, however, the amount of text is tantamount to an RPG. Prepare for loads of exposition at any turn, especially during the opening hours. My goodness, does it go on. On the bright side, the combat is pretty goddamn good. As previously mentioned, it is very much a beat-em-up style game wherein you'll fight many enemies at once, but since this is Fist of the North Star, we've got some gory finishers. So much gore! Pretty sure my gorehound friends would absolutely love this game. By the W, am I the only one who thinks the main battle theme is literally just My Plague by Slipknot? Seriously, listen to this. Anyways, driving! Outside of a minigame in Yakuza 5, Lost Paradise remains the only game within the entirety of the RGG franchise to feature a dedicated driving mechanic, and it is wonky. The worst part is the need to farm for materials. I can honestly say that if I wasn't doing a New Game Plus for this playthrough, it would take me at least an extra 30 minutes from the grinding alone. Why? Because every part you receive for your car is junk, and you need to scour that gigantic as fuck wasteland for materials to fix them. You really need to go out of your way if you want to increase the stats of your car in any meaningful way. Positive note, you do get some banging tunes to listen to while wandering the wasteland, with the peak song being the North Star version of the world famous Receive You. Now for the part of Lost Paradise you'll probably be spending the most of your time on, the mini-games! First we have the casino, which is generally the most boring part of any game in the series because it's just typical gambling nonsense. In the words of Bob Holly, who cares? Next is baseball, but with a twist. Instead of using a bat and ball, Kenshiro uses a metal beam and motorcycle riding raiders. Now that sounds super! With proper timing, you can even send them blasting off Team Rocket style. Or in the words of Bob Holly, I like that! Next we have bartending, which has you complete a quick time event within a limited time frame to serve an alcoholic beverage to a patron. Not only is this a decent way to make money, but depending on which customer you serve, you can increase the shop's inventory or even activate a side quest. It's this reason alone why bartending is the most crucial minigame to complete. Following that, we have Dr. Kenshiro, which is a super fun rhythm game. Nothing more to be said here outside the fun quip that starts off the initial song. After that, we've got Nightclub Management. If you've played Yakuza 0 or Kiwami 2, then you should know exactly what to expect, which is having the right girl seated with the right guy. The main difference is the pace is super quick compared to the original incarnation of this minigame. After that, there's a whole racing minigame using the wonky driving mechanics. At least the drivers are easy to beat. On top of that, there's an entire set of side stories revolving around this minigame, so that's pretty rad. And finally, we have the ultimate minigames, the Sega Classic Arcades. Before we can play any of these, we have to reach halfway through the main story, run into this dude, then fight some other dudes, and hope we get a treasure map as a reward, and hope said reward is a video game cabinet, which, unfortunately for me, was not always the case. Thankfully, I had an old save file with all the arcade games unlocked because I was not about to spend hours unlocking them. Firstly, Outrun. It's your classic time trial racing game wherein you avoid obstacles and try to hit the next checkpoint. The big gimmick here is that there are multiple paths you can choose, adding for quite a bit of replayability. Next is Super Hang-On, aka the most addictive arcade racer I have literally ever played in my entire life. It's basically the same thing as Outrun but on a motorbike, but the one thing that keeps me coming back is how the backgrounds change after every checkpoint. It makes me want to play every level in the game, and one day I will master at least one of them. Oh, and the soundtrack for Super Hang-On is god tier, just listen to it! Then there's Space Harrier, which is an on-rail shooter, aka Star Fox, but, well, not nearly as fun. Or good, but, you know, this game walked so Star Fox could fly, so hats off for you for that, Sega. And of course, there's a claw machine, which is exactly how it sounds. There is technically one other Sega classic, but I'll leave you to discover that one on your own. One thing I have to mention is the voice acting. For this video I decided to go with the Japanese audio because it uses basically the same cast as Yakuza 0, aka one of the goated entries in the series. This means Kiryu as Kenshiro, Makoto as Kisana, and Goro fucking Majima as Jagi, who is just as insane as you'd imagine. The biggest downside of Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise is the padding, especially during the second half of the game, where you'll be constantly told to go to different locations only for nothing to really happen as far as progressing the main story. It got especially frustrating during the final chapter. Yes, the literal final parts of the game before the final dungeon. You had to run around the entire city, accomplishing pretty much nothing. It was all worth it though, as the final gauntlet of enemies, as well as the final boss, were the stuff of legend. While I won't spoil the final boss, I will give a brief showcase of the final area with some fitting music. Overall, Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise is flawed, but still one of my favorite games of all time, and I am no spring chicken, so I hope that means something. RGG Studio does what I wish most devs would do, take an anime game and do something unique with it, man! Dozens of fighting and Dynasty Warrior games, but only one open world beat 'em up? When JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is right there, like, come on! I gotta tell you, it's a shame that this game is just stuck on the PlayStation 4/5, I suppose, if you want to, be a bit more general about it. If you have a PlayStation 4 or 5, you can play this game, but as for people on Xbox or PC or Switch, they can't get this, even though basically every other game in the RGG series has been ported to the Xbox and PC. This is literally the only one, and I assume it has something to do with the intellectual property rights of Fist of the North Star, but hopefully one day they can get that all sorted out, because this is going to be, within the next 5 to 10 years, a true hidden gem. And here's hoping that the PlayStation 6, whenever that comes out, can play PS4 games as well, because I don't want to think of a day when I can't play this anymore. This is easily one of my favorite games I've ever played. I know I said that already in the video, but seriously, it has such a unique charm to it that no other game has, not even within this own series. Anyways, as for what's next, I'm thinking either a proper RPG or, hear me out, survival horror. After all, we're getting close to October, so why not get into the spirit of things? It all depends on how my brain is feeling when I start recording video game footage. Until then, hope you all have a perfect rest of your day.